The celestial meridian hung in the void like a jewel, its crystalline hull refracting the light of distant stars. It was the pride of the Varxian Empire, a diplomatic vessel worth more than entire planetary economies. Ambassador Quelix stood in the main hangar, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he watched his crew load cargo for the upcoming summit. That's when Henry walked in. The boy looked like he'd been sleeping in maintenance shafts for weeks. In fact, he had. His clothes were torn, his face smudged with grease, and his dark hair stuck up in 17 different directions. He carried a battered datapad that looked older than some of the crew members. "Excuse me," Henry said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I need you to vacate this vessel." Quelix turned, his mandibles clicking in amusement. The entire hangar fell silent. Dozens of Varxian crew members stopped their work to stare at the human boy who barely reached the ambassador's chest plates. "I beg your pardon." Quelix's translator rendered his words with perfect condescension. "This ship," Henry repeated, tapping his datapad. "I'm going to need you to leave it. You're trespassing." For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then Quelix threw his head back and laughed a sound like grinding metal. His crew joined in, their chittering echoing through the hangar. "Sir, I own this spaceship," Quelix said, his eyes watering with mirth. "This is a Varxian diplomatic vessel, registered to the Empire itself. And you are ... what? A homeless human child who wandered aboard." "Not homeless," Henry corrected mildly. "I have several homes, actually. 43, at last count. And yes, you think you own this ship." Quelix's laughter died. "Security, remove this before you do that," Henry interrupted, his fingers dancing across the datapad. "You might want to check the actual registration, not the fake one the Viridian Consortium sold you. The Viridian Consortium is the most reputable." "The Viridian Consortium is a shell company," Henry said, his voice taking on a lecturing tone. "Established 6 years ago by the Krolix Syndicate to launder money through fake ship sales. They've sold the Celestial Meridian 47 times to 47 different buyers. You're just the latest sucker." Quelix's skin plates flushed purple. "That's absurd. I have documentation, forged documentation, yes. Very pretty, too. They really outdid themselves with the holographic seals." Henry looked up from his datapad. "Meanwhile, the actual ship registration filed with the Galactic Commerce Authority 18 years ago belongs to a small human child who inherited it from her grandmother." "Ridiculous," Quelix sputtered. "And even if that were true, what does it have to do with you?" Henry smiled for the first time, a small, tired expression that didn't reach his eyes. "That child was my sister, Alexis. She died 3 years ago. Plasma fire during a pirate raid on Station Kepler 442. I inherited her estate." He held up the datapad, "including this ship." The hangar had gone completely silent again. But this time, the quality of the silence was different. Uncertain, Quelix's confidence wavered. "You expect me to believe," he said slowly, "that a homeless human boy—" "Stop calling me homeless," Henry said, and now there was steel in his voice. "I'm not homeless. I'm hunting." "There's a difference. Hunting the pirates who killed my sister," Henry said simply. "Turns out they use Viridian Consortium ships as safe houses. Funny how that works. So I've been tracking every vessel they've sold, waiting for the right moment to reclaim what's mine and find what I'm looking for." Quelix laughed again, but it sounded forced. Even if any of this were true, you have no proof. Henry tapped his datapad 3 times. Every screen in the hangar lit up simultaneously, displaying a cascading waterfall of legal documents, registration papers, and transaction histories. At the top, in 17 different languages, was a single line: legal owner, Alexis Chen, deceased. Estate transferred to Henry Chen. Galactic Commerce Authority doesn't make mistakes, Henry said quietly. Not about ownership. You can check yourself. Ship registration number GCA 773-4HMN-S Meridian. Quelix's mandibles worked soundlessly. One of his aides scuttled forward, whispering urgently in his ear while checking their own datapad. The ambassador's skin plates went from purple to pale gray. This must be some kind of error, Quelix said weakly. No error, Henry replied. He walked forward, this small, dirty human boy, and every Varxian in the hangar instinctively took a step back. You were scammed, Ambassador. My condolences. But this ship belongs to me, and has for the last 3 years. I've just been waiting for the right scumbags to lead me to the bigger scumbags. The summit, Quelix began, will have to proceed without you, Henry finished. Unless you'd like to rent the ship from me, I charge reasonable rates. All proceeds go to the Kepler 442 Memorial Fund, by the way, for the families of pirate attack victims. Like mine, Quelix stared at him. Around the hangar, weapons that had been subtly drawn were now being quietly holstered. No one wanted to be the person who opened fire on the legal owner of a registered vessel not with the GCA involved. How, ... Quelix whispered. How did a child end up owning a ship like this? Henry's expression softened slightly. My grandmother was one of the best. She found the Meridian drifting near a dead star, registered it, gave it to Alexis on her 12th birthday. He looked up at the crystalline hull. Alexis loved this ship, used to send me messages about all the places she'd go, all the stars she'd see. Then the Krolix Syndicate started using it as bait for their scams, and the pirates who work for them. He trailed off. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. I'm 16 years old, Ambassador. I've spent 3 years living in maintenance shafts, tracking thieves and killers. And now I've found one of their major safe houses. So Yessa need you to vacate my vessel. Quelix looked at the boy, looked at him for the first time. At the exhaustion in his eyes, the determination in his stance, the weight of grief and purpose that sat on his shoulders. What will you do? The ambassador asked quietly. Henry smiled again, and this time it was sharp as broken glass. What humans do best, Ambassador. I'm going to make them regret it. The Varxian crew filed off the ship in silence. Henry watched them go, clutching his sister's datapad, standing in the hangar of the ship that should have been hers.